over the Bucs may prove to be the turning point for the Falcons' 2024 season.
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to another illustrious episode of the Locked On Falcons podcast, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. So, guys, if you do not know me, I'm your very humble host, Aaron Freeman, aka Mr. Drew, aka the iron that sharpens the iron, aka Mr. aka, and I've been covering the Atlanta Falcons for nearly 2 decades, formerly at falcfans.com, RIP, still going strong on this illustrious podcast, and I thank each and every one of you that goes strong with me each and every day, that makes this podcast your first listen each and every day. We call you the everydayers. And if you want to become an everydayer, all you got to do is subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So, of course, we are reacting to the Falcons' 31-26 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll talk about how this win, represents potentially a microcosm of the Falcons season, a big turning point for their season. We'll talk about the defensive struggles, which should have been expected, but I know a lot of people went into this game feeling very confident in the defense, and we'll talk about what's next for the Atlanta Falcons. But as I said, it was a huge win. I feel like this game a part of this game was kind of the part of the season. It's sort of a microcosm of the season, because for me, I remember at the end of the third quarter when the Falcons went up 31-17, I told the Locked On Falcons insiders, hit the link in the description if you want to become a Locked On Falcons insider so you can get my commentary throughout the game as opposed to just waiting to the end of the game. But I was like, yeah, the Bucs are going to score again. They're going to get at least 2 more scores this game. And the question is, will the Falcons get that last score in order to sort of finish this game? The Bucs scored twice, getting a safety and then a touchdown to sort of cut the lead to 31-26. The Falcons had a chance to extend their lead. And Younghoe Koo missed that field goal in the closing minutes, and then the Bucs went down the field and had an opportunity to hit the game-winning touchdown at the end. And unfortunately for the Falcons, the Bucs fell short, or maybe went a little too long because Baker Mayfield threw it out the back of the end zone, and Raheem Jarrett wound up catching it, but out of bounds. And so to me, this is kind of, I think, a microcosm of what I think the Falcons season is going to be, where you're going to look at where they are right now, 5-3, 4-0 in the division. You're thinking, oh, this thing is locked up, just like probably a lot of you guys thought once the Falcons went up 2 scores late in the third quarter or early in the fourth quarter, whenever it was. You're like, oh, this is a wrap. I don't have to worry about this game. And it's like, it's the Atlanta Falcons, guys. Pump the brakes a little bit. They're going to make it interesting whether they want to or not by the end of the season. And so, they'll probably still win the division. They'll probably make the playoffs, all that stuff. They're still going to probably, take care of business, but it's going to be drama these last 9 games. So I'm just giving you a heads up that it's not going to just be, moonwalk into the playoffs at this point in time. So this game kind of represents what I think their season is probably going to be. But it was a huge win, as I said. 4-0 in division, huge, 5-3 at this point in time. I'll admit, guys, I did not go into this game with a lot of confidence. I knew the Falcons could win this game, but I didn't feel that confident that they would win this game, and they did come away with a win. We talked about this earlier this season, where you wanted to be in the position at the very minimum being 6-5 going into your Week 12 bye. They got 3 more games left, 3 very winnable games against Dallas, against New Orleans, against Denver, and we'll see if the Falcons can win at least 2 of those next 3 games to be 7-4 going into that bye week and being 1 game ahead of where they need to be. So clearly the Falcons are, potentially a couple of wins away from being in very firm control of their destiny, right? They're in the driver's seat, so to speak, as we, finish out this season and get into the second half of the season. But I'm sitting here telling you, expect that you're going to swerve a little bit off the road and you're like, oh, like when you're driving late at night, when you doze off a little bit and you're like, and you run a little bit off the road. So I'm just saying, I'm just giving you a heads up. That's going to happen at some point, so be prepared for it. But overall, as Tanitra Batiste and I discussed on the Locked On Falcons postcast over at Locked On Sports Atlanta immediately after the game. This was kind of an Oreo game, right? Where the ends were not great, right? It started poorly, it ended poorly, but hey, the sweet creamy middle in the middle, pause, was great in the middle of this game. And so to me, when we talk about this game potentially being a turning point for the Falcons season, there was a point in this game where it was a turning point for this game, right? Where Kyle Pitts touchdown that wasn't called back, right? The second score for Kyle Pitts in this game busted a big 49-yard score there. And then Antoine Winfield runs him down from behind and knocks the ball out at the goal line. And fortunately for the Falcons, they don't overturn the touchdown. It doesn't turn into a touchback, wiping out 7 points for the Falcons. Although I think probably most people in the stadium, most people watching at home were like, I think Antoine Winfield knocked that ball out before the ball crossed the plate. But fortunately for the Atlanta Falcons, there was no angle. There was no angle down the sideline for the cameras. Shout out to the refs. That check cleared. Arthur Blank's checks never bounce. And so the refs helped the Falcons out in that situation. But if that had not been a touchdown, if they had taken those points away, it would have been a huge momentum swing in the favor of the Bucs, a potential 14-point swing, because up to that point, the Falcons hadn't really shown that they could really stop the Bucs offense at that point in time. And so, kudos to the refs. I'm not going to say kudos to Kyle Pitts. I'm going to say kudos to the refs for helping the Falcons. But to me, that was a turning point. It was a good day for Pitts outside of that one play. I mean, that was a great play outside of the last second of that play, because he finished with 4 catches, 91 yards, and 2 scores in this game. But to me, that was kind of the turning point. When that touchdown counted, the Falcons would go on and proceed to, keep their momentum. And things could have very easily gone wrong at that point, and they didn't, right? You can continue to ride that momentum. The Falcons score on their next 2 possessions to take a 24-17 halftime lead. Then they get score late in the third quarter to push that lead to 31-17. And it's kind of a similar conversation about this season, right? We may look back at this win of being like, yeah, that could have gone against you, but in terms of losing this game to the Bucs, but you win the game, and that could wind up being the turning point for the season, because being 4-4, as I stated earlier this week on the podcast and elsewhere, I don't think that was the end of the Falcons season, but it would have not necessarily had you to have as much control over your destiny for the rest of the season. And now that you have this win, you have a lot more control over this destiny. And the Falcons, again, are in the driver's seat as long as they don't swerve too far off the road and whatnot. So we'll see if the Falcons do that. Let's continue the conversation talking about the Kirk Cousins chaos meter, a consistent thing that we do here on the Locked On Falcons Rapid Reaction episodes. For those of you not familiar, this is something that was bequeathed by Locked On Vikings host Luke Braun, and we talk about it every single week. There's 5 levels to this chaos meter. There's level 1, conservative Kirk, where Kirk is too conservative for his own good. Level 2 is Kirk doing game manager stuff, things that he's been doing throughout his career. Level 3 is peak Kirk Cousins, where you get a little bit of chaos just to get that extra from Kirk Cousins. Level 4 is just too much chaos, where you're purely chaotic. And then level 5 is what we added from Luke Braun and Locked On Vikings, which is the chaos now to the point where now we need to start talking about benching Kirk for Michael Penix, right? And we've had some level 2 games, we've had some level 3 games, we've had some level 4 games, and this is another level 3 game. This is peak Kirk Cousins, and to me, the chaos, it's Kirk Cousins chaos when Kirk is out here scrambling, potentially for first downs, out here getting 3 carries for 16 yards, about 18 yards above expectation is basically when you get 16 yards from Kirk Cousins. And he finishes the game 23 of 29, 276 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. So another good day for Kirk Cousins against this Bucs defense. You saw the explosiveness on early drives, where I think the Falcons had an explosive play on each of their first 4 drives. And then I think I had 1 or 2 more to close out the half. And so that was a big part of why this offense was able to start fast, as we've discussed so many times, where the explosiveness is going to allow this team to score points. And that was the case in the first half of this game. And so that was, you got a big time throw from Kirk on a couple of these throws, splitting defenders on that Kyle Pitts touchdown, throwing deep to Darnell Mooney and whatnot. So you got peak Kirk Cousins because you just had a little bit of chaos from Kirk, right? Just a little bit of, I can push the ball down the field. I can sit here and tuck and run and be decisive and scramble for a 13-yard game late in the fourth quarter, to set up a 3rd and 1, and then QB sneak of Kirk Cousins QB sneaking, first QB sneak of the season. He converts and whatnot. and the Falcons need that because their short yardage run attack is still iffy at this point in the season. But great day for Kirk. Another strong finish for Kirktober. Right, we start Kirktober with a win over the Bucs. We finish Kirktober with a win over the Bucs, and now we proceed into Kirkvember, which Kirk's numbers are even better in the month of November, historically speaking, than they are in the month of October. So if he can build off of this, we'll it's going to be a very good Kirkvember, as we say. But I know this game was probably a lot closer than a lot of people went into this game expecting it to be, given that the Bucs were missing their two best players on offense. But if you had those expectations, I don't think you were really paying attention to either the Falcons or the Bucs, and I'll explain that as we continue today's Locked On Falcons. So with the trade deadline looming, so many NFL teams are still looking for quality professionals that fit your team. And this fall, if you have a small business, you've been doing the same, but you can just go to LinkedIn Jobs. And LinkedIn Jobs, they have the tools that are going to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just any old job board because they're going to help you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but just might be open for the perfect role in any given month. Over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Join 2.5 million small businesses that use LinkedIn for hiring by posting your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 10 million active users because it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Because unlike on other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. Pick more or less on at least 2 player stat projections, and you can watch the winnings roll in, and you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. If you're looking to get in on the action because certain sports books aren't available in your state, don't worry. Prize Picks is in the state of Georgia, and withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure, and you can get your money in as quickly as 15 minutes. So if you went, more on those tight end touchdowns in this matchup, where I believe if K. Dotton and Kyle Pitts both got a touchdown, they both got 2, those were 2 potential winning picks for you on Prize Picks. So don't miss out by downloading the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks, run your game. So it was not a great day for the Falcons defense. The Bucs were generally successful moving the ball throughout this game, and we continue to see the bend but don't break Falcons defense on this particular Sunday. And that was sort of, after the initial drive where Jesse Bates was able to force a fumble, which was a big part of the Falcons getting that early lead in this game, capped off by Kyle Pitts' first touchdown of this game. You saw the Bucs, once they were able to, control the football and secure the football on their next drive, they went down the field with pretty much no problem, 15-play scoring drive. They were able to convert 2 third downs, a 4th down on that drive. I counted 9 runs on that 15-play drive where they had a 78% success rate. So we talk about keeping your offense on schedule. That's exactly what you want. They capped it off with a touchdown to K. Dotton on National Tight Ends Day. And to me, that drive kind of basically illustrates why, if you thought the Falcons defense was going to lock down the Bucs offense in this game, you were sorely mistaken. Because yes, you obviously look at, losing Chris Godwin, losing Mike Evans, and you're like, oh, the Bucs won't be able to throw the football, right? Well, they're going to run the football, and you're going up against a defense that is one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, 24th in yards allowed, rushing yards allowed per game, 25th in expected points added per run this season. And so, if the Bucs had to pivot away from throwing the football to running the football, this is the perfect defense to do so against. And just because you don't have the same caliber of wide receivers doesn't mean you're not going to throw the football, right? You just throw the football to your running backs and tight ends. And without Troy Anderson in the Falcons defensive lineup, who exactly on the Falcons defense were you sitting there going like, oh, this guy's definitely going to be able to lock down Rachaad White and, Bucky Irvin and K. Dotton, please let me know, guys. I'll wait. We can sit here and wait, and we'll be waiting a long time because there ain't nobody else on this defense that can really do that. And Justin Simmons was also out, so Richie Grant was probably your best option of your options, and we did not see Richie Grant have a good day on this particular Sunday. Otten finished with 9 catches for 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. Irving, Rashad White, Sean Tucker combined for 13 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown in this game. And so we kind of saw a defense that reverted back to what we saw earlier in the season, where teams were able to run the football, control time of possession, dink and dunk their way down the field to move the football. And the Falcons were hoping, hey, we'll get some stops in the red zone. We'll get some stops in third downs, but the Bucs were consistently in third and short, third and medium, as we saw earlier in the season, something that we've talked about a bunch where, the last couple of weeks, you started to see the Falcons get into a normal third down defense, getting into some third and longs. Unfortunately, Seattle was converting those while Carolina wasn't. And this week you went back to a lot of third and short, third and 4, third and 3, third and 5, those types of things rather than third and 10s and whatnot. And then you didn't get the sort of classic Falcons, red zone defense beefing up because the Bucs were 3 for 3 in the red zone in this game. So really the only bright spot for the Falcons defense was the turnovers, right? You had Jesse Bates with a forced fumble and interception. You had AJ Terrell adding another interception. Again, Jesse Bates had that first fumble on the second play from scrimmage, which basically gives you 7 points to start this game. Shout out to Kadero Hodge for also essentially getting a turnover with a big time tackle on a fake punt in the third quarter to stop the Bucs from continuing to bleed clock and continuing a drive. And essentially, you got 3 turnovers in the third quarter with the Bates interception to start things off, the Hodge tackle on the fake punt, and then AJ Terrell wrapping things up with an interception of his own. And that was basically the stops that you needed to stop this team. And again, that's what we've seen consistently from this Falcons defense throughout the season, where they get enough stops in the second half of the games. Usually it's in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, but this week it was in the third quarter. And that's part of the reason why I told the Locked On Falcons insiders, like, oh, the Bucs are going to score because you already got your 3 stops now, right? At this point in time. So like, you're not going to stop them again until technically, I guess they got to stop on that final drive where Baker Mayfield missed the Hail Mary. But this is kind of what the Falcons defense is. And, again, part of the reason why I'm not as negative on it today as I was a couple of weeks ago, because I've made peace with this over the last couple of weeks. This is the quote unquote good enough defense that is just going to play just good enough, just barely get past, the finish line to get the Falcons some wins when their offense is clicking. Right. And that's basically going to be the continued story of the season, right? That the offense is going to have to go out there and score points, right? This team is not built to win games 17-13, guys, right? They're built to win games 31-32 or 31-26, that type of stuff. So again, you got to make peace with it at this point in time. So we'll see if the Falcons will continue to improve their defense, and we'll get something better, and we'll start winning games 31-23. Like we can get one less score. We'll see if that's the case coming up. But we will turn our attention to what's next for the Falcons. And we'll talk about the potential impact of injuries, not only with the Falcons getting some good news on Chris Lindstrom's injury, not so much with Ruke Orhorhoro, but they may get some good news to make up for that with Micah Parsons, who they face next, potentially with the Dallas Cowboys being out. And we'll break that down to wrap up today's Locked On Falcons. So basketball season is back, and I know you guys want to get your French toast, your French fries, get that ratatouille, as well as drink that cognac, that Hennessy to, Vive la France with Zachary Risache in the building. So you want to get back in the building so you can enjoy that inner Frenchman and go, ho, 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 every time Zachary Risache hits a shot moving forward. And Game Time is going to allow you to do that, guys, because they have Game Time picks, which is going to allow you to get tickets to see your favorite teams play even easier. They filter out the fluff that is Game Time picks so that you can only see the incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets, right? And you can toggle on those all-in prices in the Game Time app so that you don't have to worry about hidden fees at checkout. You can use the panoramic seat views to line up that perfect visage for where Zachary Risache is going to be pulling up and hitting those jumpers in the arena. So whether it's basketball, football, baseball, other sports, comedy, music, theater, whatever event is near you, Game Time is taking the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So the Falcons got some good news post-game in terms of Chris Lindstrom, who exited the game with a knee injury midway through the third quarter. It seems like he's fine, right? Raheem Morris indicated that he was cleared to return to the game at a certain point, but the coaches decided to hold him out, probably, not to exaggerate or, exacerbate that injury going into next week, especially given a certain pass rusher that may or may not play. We'll talk about that in a second. But they didn't quite get the same news. Essentially, got no news in terms of an update on Ruke Orhorhoro, who exited the game on the previous series when the Bucs had the ball with an ankle injury. He was, downgraded to out for the game. And so that's not a particularly promising sign when a player is not cleared to come back in the game. That's probably an injury that may linger. We'll see, how long that lingers. We'll probably get an update on Monday. So obviously we'll keep you, covered here on the Locked On Falcons podcast. But, if you have been, sitting here frustrated that Brandon Dorlus has not gotten action, Ruke Orhorhoro's fellow rookie, good chance if Ruke misses next week's game or in more games, we will see Brandon Dorlus next week. So congratulations to all of you that have been secretly wishing for that to happen. Not to suggest that you guys are rooting for Ruke Orhorhoro to get hurt or anything like that. But the reality of the situation was an injury was going to be Dorlus's quickest path to getting on the football field, given the glut of D tackles that the Falcons have currently in their defensive lineup. But, speaking of injuries, probably the most notable injury is not in Atlanta heading into this next week where the Falcons return home to face the Dallas Cowboys. It is Micah Parsons. We'll see on this situation. Obviously, Locked On Cowboys is going to have much more information, but at least the initial indications with Parsons not returning to practice this week means that, he probably is not going to play. But again, we'll see. We'll see. Obviously, Locked On Cowboys is going to have you guys covered on that. We'll obviously keep it monitored here on Locked On Falcons because his presence in out of the lineup against is going to have a dramatic impact on this game. And you're probably sitting there, man, like the Falcons have had a lot of great injury luck where seemingly every team's best players are out when we face them. And it's like, yeah, A.J. Brown missed that Eagles game. The Saints were down 2 starters on their offensive line. Antoine Winfield missed the first Bucs game. You had Evans and Godwin missing this week. And then potentially, no Micah Parsons next week against Dallas. It's like, as I say, it's better to be lucky than good. So we'll take what we can get here. Beggars cannot be choosers here on this illustrious podcast. This is a statement we've said thousands of times over the years here in Atlanta. And so we will take what we can get. And if we will benefit from some great injury luck from our, in our case where we can mostly avoid these injuries. Obviously, we've had some injuries, including today, but where we're not having these devastating injuries where we're losing our best players and other teams are, and take what we can get. The football gods don't smile here on the Atlanta Falcons too often. So again, if they decide to, the sun does shine on Atlanta for at least a season, we'll take what we can get. So that's what we'll say on that front. So again, I think this game is going to be a big one for the Falcons season when we look back at this. As I said at the top, I did not go into this game feeling super confident. This, to me, similar to last week against Seattle, as a toss-up game. We're going to probably have a lot of these toss-up games. We're going to continue to see a lot of these games come down to the final 5 minutes and potentially who has the ball last, who makes the critical play in those final minutes is probably going to be the team that wins the game. I think the Falcons are making strides at this point in time. We'll see if the defense can continue to make strides. Or will start to make strides. I think they made some strides the last couple of weeks, but didn't look like it. We'll see what the film says this Sunday. And we'll see if the offense can continue to build off of this. And this is the type of performance that we can consistently get at Kirk Cousins, because so far we've really only gotten this 2 times this season against the Bucs and then in the fourth quarter against the Eagles. And that's really about it. I'm blanking on I don't recall Kirk playing great against the Saints, but I just could be blanking on that. They all blur together, guys, at this point in time. It's all dramatic. All these late game heroics and drama just kind of blurs together. So it's like, what happened at the end of the Saints game? But anyway, oh yeah, that was the game where we just got defense and special teams. Okay, so yeah, I'm imagining Kirk did not play great in that game. So we'll see if this is a game that we can build off of, or is this just, hey, Kirk looks great against Todd Bowles' defense, and outside of that, we still have the struggle. So we'll see. Again, that's where Micah Parsons, because he could wreak some havoc if he's healthy next week. So we'll see if the Falcons, They should be able to run the ball against Dallas because their run defense is even worse than ours. So hopefully we won't need Kirk to have to put the team on his back next week. So we'll see on that front, guys. But again, big win for the Falcons, coming away with a win. Never had a doubt. Never at any point thought the Falcons would lose this game. Definitely not the case. Please don't put me in a lie detector or anything like that, but polygraph. But yeah, man, great win for the Falcons, or great win, crucial win. I don't know if it's a great win. I don't know if any win for the Falcons is a great win, given how dramatic they are going to be. So, like I said, make sure you hit up your local drugstore to get a refill on your prescription on your high blood pressure medication, your heart medication, because you're going to need it. But great spot to be for the Falcons at this point in the season. We'll see if the momentum and the craziness continues this season as we, in the Kirktober and fold into Kirkvember. So, it's looking great. So we'll see what the Falcons do. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow on Locked On Sports Atlanta with a Falcons football party where myself, Jarvis Davis, Tanisha Batiste, and Tori McElhaney of AtlantaFalcons.com will be giving our thoughts on this game. Of course, we'll be back all week long with more coverage here on Locked On Falcons to get you not only the breakdown of all the things that stood out in this game, but also get you the preview for the upcoming Cowboys game. And make sure you check out Locked On NFL, as your second listen, where Tyler Rowland and Tony Wiggins are giving you 2 shows daily to get you geared up for all the action that goes around each and every Sunday. And of course, they'll have you covered for all the Week 8 action this past Sunday. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every